Hello everyone, Rurikhan here coming at you with another first impressions video, and today we're going to be taking a look at Tales of Symphonia Chronicles. Tales of Symphonia Chronicles actually consists of two different titles, which is Tales of Symphonia and Tales of Symphonia Dawn of a New World, which is a sequel to the first title. These titles were sent to me by Namco Bandai so that I could give it a look and tell you guys my personal opinion on these titles. And today's video is actually going to be somewhat of a post-commentary because I want to talk about kind of like both of the games in general, as well as even a little bit about Tales of Xillia as well, to kind of put you guys into context as to where I'm coming from when I'm talking about the different aspects of the game. Now, I'm not going to go into as much in-depth as I went for Tales of Xillia, because Tales of Xillia video was pretty much in-depth about the Tales combat style and that kind of stuff. So if you guys want to know more about the combat system and the combat mechanics and all of that, you would do well to watch the Tales of Xillia video, because I go really in-depth on that one. For the Tales of Symphonia, the combat is somewhat similar, although with a couple of different things here and there. Nothing too particularly different, I would have to say. Apart from the fact that for a Dawn of the New World, I couldn't actually dodge. Like, you could only block, at least up until the point where I've played, and I've only played a little bit of both of these games. I didn't go too much in depth, so as to kind of prevent spoiling myself to the story. As a matter of fact, I kind of already spoiled myself a big chunk of story by playing a little bit of Tales of Symphonia, and then immediately after playing a little bit of Tales of Symphonia Dawn of a New World, which is something that I would not recommend that anyone does, as in, if you plan on playing these titles, play through Tales of Symphonia first. Do not touch Tales of Symphonia Dawn of the New World, because like a lot of stuff is spoiled right at the start. So I would not advise you guys to do that. Now, let's get started in talking about the Tales titles. Here's the thing, like, I thought I had never played a Tales titles before playing Tales of Xillia, which is something that I've mentioned in my Tales of Xillia video. And it turns out that was actually wrong, because when I started playing Tales of Symphonia Dawn of the New World, I was like, wait a second, I've played this game before. It turns out I had actually played this on the Wii a long time ago, and I didn't even remember it, because at the time I was so anti-JRPG, like all I really cared about was World of Warcraft in those days, and like I played through Tales of Symphonia Dawn of the New World and it did not resonate with me at all. So I don't know why I was like that. I just feel like I was kind of closed off to a whole slew of game genres, and these days I'm a lot more open to all of these different experiences when it comes to gaming, which is definitely an interesting thing to look at. But anyways, I'm already rambling, so let's get to it. In Tales of Symphonia, you're going to be playing as a character named Lloyd Irving. And this character is going to be helping another character who is, I forget her name, Colette. Another character called Colette, who is the Chosen of Regeneration. And she supposedly is going to do something that is going to regenerate the world, and it is going to save a lot of people, and it is going to prevent a lot of war that is currently happening between two different factions of the humans and the Desians. Desians, of course, being half-elves, because everybody knows you can't trust an elf. It's that simple. You cannot trust elves. I don't know why people still don't understand this concept. Yeah, it's just, there I go with my dwarven feelings again. It's interesting because in this first title, like, something happened while I was playing through the title that I was like, you gotta be kidding me. But the main character was apparently raised by a dwarf, and I was like, well, okay, there we go. He was raised by a dwarf. That's why this game is so awesome. That's just it. No, but in all honesty, the story of this title is actually very compelling. As soon as I started playing it, I don't want to spoil anything. And me basically telling you guys anything, since there's a lot of plot twists right at the start of the title, I'm going to avoid telling you as much of the story as possible of both of these titles. I'm just going to tell you that the story of these titles, to me personally, was extremely compelling, and I got into it like straight away. Like, I'm definitely going to be playing through these titles at some point. Unfortunately, it can't be now because I'm way too busy, and Dark Souls 2 is coming out, and you guys know what that's going to be like. So, but definitely, I need to play through the Tales titles because ever since Tales of Xillia, I've just like fanboy mode engaged. So bear that in mind as you are watching my first impressions of these videos. I am a huge fan of the Tales series ever since I played Tales of Xillia. So just bear that in mind as a little side note, so to speak. So as I said, the story is very compelling, and why do I want to harp on this? Because when I started playing Tales of Xillia, sure, the story was somewhat interesting because I've only played the very start of Tales of Xillia 2. Not Tales of Xillia 2 the number, but I've only played the very start of Tales of Xillia, 2. That very start, like the start of that story, it's like, sure, it was kind of interesting. Not terribly compelling, because I have a feeling that story is only going to fully flesh out as you play through the game, probably as with a lot of Tales titles. However, when I started playing Tales of Symphonia, I was like hooked into the story, like kind of from the get-go. And once I saw how the story pans out, because like I said, Tales of Symphonia Dawn of a New World is a sequel. Once I saw what is going to happen further on, I was like hooked completely. So like, I can't tell you guys this enough. I can't tell you why, because again, it's spoiler territory, and please guys, no spoilers in the comment section, otherwise I'm going to have to go ahead and delete those comments that do include spoilers. But yeah, totally got into it. So let's talk a little bit about, I mean, you guys already know what Tales titles are about. I would assume you got story, you got exploration, you got lots of dungeon crawling, which is something that I love. You got a real-time combat system, which again, if you want to know more in depth about that particular combat system, you really need to go watch Tales of Xillia. But I will give you a little bit of the basics. When you start a combat, basically, you see a monster, and you approach the monster, you touch the monster, combat begins. You're teleported to an alternate location. I mean, technically you're still in the same place, but like in the whole JRPG fashion, it's gonna like put you in an arena with the monsters, and you can freely move around the arena. You can perform combo attacks. X basically does your standard attacks. You can use square to block, and in the first title, in Tales of Symphonia, similar to the way you have in Tales of Xillia, if you press square and you flick the left analog stick to the back, for instance, your character is going to do a little bit of a dodge movement. Now, in Tales of Symphonia Dawn of a New World, this doesn't happen. At least at the start of the game, you don't have that ability. I'm not sure if maybe you get it later on, but it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense because square is also used for free movement in Dawn of the New World, which is kind of weird a little bit. Kind of the controls freaked me out a little bit when I got to Dawn of a New World. But yeah, you got X for attack, you got square for blocks and dodges in the normal Tales Symphonia. You got triangle for menu options, because if you ever get like confused or you need to use an item or whatever, you're going to have to open up an in-game menu, because the combat is real time. So it's going to be hard for you to like be chugging potions at the same time as you're making off your combo attacks, because yes, you can do combos, and yes, you do kind of get rewarded for doing combos. I even got, I think, like, was it trophies, or was it, I'm not sure if it was actual trophies or if it was just like in-game trophies, not really PSN trophies, that kind of stuff, that I've gotten like combo something something for performing certain combos. You can also combo normal attacks with your arts, which is you use the circle button for performing arts. Art's different from character to character, but I have to say that, like, so far I've played 3 Tales games, and in all those games, the first art you get for all the characters you play is Demon Fang. So that is just something that I found a little bit funny. Like, so I played through Tales of Xillia, the first thing I do, Demon Fang, and it's the same attack animation for all of them. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But I guess that's also made to keep players like familiar with the types of abilities that they're going to be using and so on. There's also healing arts for different characters. I believe you can also control all of the characters, even though I just usually focus on controlling the main characters myself. But however, as I was doing research about these titles, I actually uncovered something that I hadn't seen before, because again, I don't do review videos. I just do first impressions. I play the games for a while and I tell you guys how I feel about them, and that is how I'm always going to do things on this channel. So I never noticed this, but as I was doing research for the Tales titles, I came across a place where someone was asking about multiplayer, and I was like, can't have multiplayer on these games. What the hell are you talking about? It's like, no, you actually can. And I was like, what? Like, mind blown. So I actually booted up the games again just to check it out. Like, I can't believe this. And what happens is when you're in combat, like when you're doing exploration and you're only controlling one of the characters, because this is one of those games where, let's say you have a party of 4, usually they'll all merge onto one character and you move that character around the world as you're exploring, and whenever context demands it, the characters kind of like split up into the different characters that form them, so that the different characters that form the party, so to speak. So what happened was if you set up the characters in your party to manual, and let's say you have controller number 1 and controller number 2, you go to your second party member, you set that to manual, that automatically becomes bound to the second controller of your console. And so whenever you're in combat, you can basically have 2 people playing simultaneously, and I was like, this is amazing. Now obviously it's not going to be an amazing experience in the way that, like, at the end of the day, whenever combat is done, it's still going to be only one player controlling the direction the story goes in. But I still think that it's amazing in a game that is so kind of like single player focused, they actually put in the extra effort. Well, I wonder how much effort it actually is, but they actually put in a little bit of extra effort to allow people to do some couch co-op during combat sequences. I think that is actually a really good feature. And I think it's probably a little bit of an underrated feature, even because I didn't even know it existed, and it just kind of like blew my mind. So yeah, as you are doing combats, you can combo your attacks with your arts, and you can do different arts, and like you can then, like, some of these arts are linkable, so I assume that you can then combo one art off another art. The way that you kind of perform these arts is that you can bind the way a combination of, let's say, moving your analog stick to up or down or left or right and pressing circle, that is going to make a different ability. And I know that this seems a little bit awkward for someone that maybe never played any of the Tales series, but to be completely honest, once you actually get into it, it still feels a little bit awkward at the start, but like once you start getting accustomed to the way the combat works, it feels very organic, and I haven't really felt any serious issues with it. Now, a couple of differences between the 2 titles. One of the things that I clearly noticed right from the get-go, and to be honest, I couldn't figure out which one I liked the most, was that in Tales of Symphonia, you have a field map. And what does this mean? It means basically when you're out of a town, your character is actually exploring the world, you know, in typical JRPG fashion, like very simple textures and stuff like that, but your character is walking around through the world, and you can encounter random monsters, you can go to all the locations in the map, all that stuff. Typical JRPG stuff, right? But however, in Tales of Symphonia Dawn of a New World, I believe that this was due to time restrictions when they were developing the game. Instead of having an actual field map, what happens is whenever you exit the city, you get a map, and then you get to select what location you want to go to. Now, I believe, if my memory serves me correctly, from when I played this back on the Wii, I believe that even though when you have a menu to select which location you want to go to in Dawn of the New World, you can still get random encounters when your character is actually moving to that location in the world. This is what I remember. I'm not 100% sure about that, so bear that in mind. Another difference that Dawn of New World brings is that you can forge pacts with monsters. What that means is that you defeat monsters, you beat the crap out of them, and then you can add them to your roster as party members. And also, as you add new monsters, they kind of like level up the monsters that you already have, which it's a little bit of a system that I didn't really go too in depth with. And again, I have to apologize you guys for this, but fact of the matter is, I want to play these games, and the more I played of Dawn of a New World, the more I was spoiling myself to playing Tales of Symphonia. So just bear that in mind. So yeah, I didn't really fully understood the whole thing with the monsters, but you basically get to put them in your party, and they will combo attacks with you, and they'll just work as additional party members whenever there's not human party members around. So I'm actually not sure what's going to happen if you actually fill up your party. Like, what happens then? Are you going to have to pick between having human people and monsters? Because, I mean, I'm more of a kind of guy that I'd be like, well, I'll just take the human characters. Sorry about that. Screw the monsters. But yeah, you can definitely do that. And it's nice to have that when you don't have a full party. It's nice to be able to just fill it up with a couple of monsters that you've defeated and whatnot, just to have always the 4 people there, the 4 elements of your party in that location. So the combat, like I said, I love the combat in the Tales series. I loved it in Tales of Xillia, even though the Tales of Symphonia is slightly simplified when compared to Tales of Xillia, because I mean, Tales of Xillia came out in 2013, Tales of Symphonia came out in 2004, and Tales of Symphonia Dawn of a New World came out in 2008. So these two are some old games. As a matter of fact, I was even thinking 2008, that wasn't that long ago. And I'm like, I'm getting really old. 2008 was 6 years ago. Where the hell is my head? So yeah, there's that. Now, in terms of visuals, I know that there's going to be a lot of people, like all the people that are like completely into graphical fidelity and all that stuff. You guys are going to look at the visuals of this game and you're going to be like, what? What is this? What is it with these low-res textures? Oh my god, I can't look at it. It makes my eyes bleed. And I'm like, well, the exit door is to your left. See you later. Because these games are not about graphical fidelity. These games are about experiencing a story, which, like I said, I was instantly engaged by the story of Tales of Symphonia. I was really, like, just into it. And by the way, both these games have different main characters. So in Tales of Symphonia, you're going to be playing Lloyd Irving. And in Tales of Symphonia Dawn of a New World, you're going to be playing another character called Emil. And to be completely honest, I have to say, at the start of the game of Dawn of a New World, that character, oh my god, I hate it. I hate that character because he's just so insecure. He's one of those, oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. As a matter, and here's the thing, like if it's not enough for the game to kind of show you that this character is really just like, oh, I'm so shy and I'm so sorry and I'm so this and that and the other. The game spends like the better part of the starting experience with other characters calling out that specific flaw on the main character, like, you need to stop being so sorry. You're always sorry all the time. What is it with you? You need to, like, man up. But then something actually happens, which your character makes a pact with the monster, not a monster, but like the monster lord Ratatosk, and every now and then Ratatosk kind of channels through him and he becomes like this super badass. So there's that aspect to it as well. And once again, I do not want to get too much into detail with the story, but one of the things that I also found interesting is that there are several elements in the Tales series that I could instantly draw parallels from, both in Tales Symphonia, Dawn of a New World, and Tales of Xillia. Like, I instantly drew parallels through everything. There is usually always a girl that is somewhat oblivious to the world, and like oblivious to the world, I don't mean like she's a total retard, but she's like, she doesn't understand kind of like how the world works. And there's also always like a mercenary, kind of like a Han Solo type character that shows up. And it's, I don't know, I just thought it was like, this situation seems somewhat familiar. But I guess this is kind of like maybe a running theme with the Tales series. Again, I am extremely new to the Tales franchise, so bear with me, guys. I'm just trying to introduce this game to maybe people who haven't heard of the Tales series, and maybe people who are willing to give it a shot. As a matter of fact, one of the things that I was thinking as I was playing this game is like, man, I wish I had like the actual boxed versions, because all I got is like PSN codes. But I was like, man, I'd like to have the actual. You guys know this about me. I'm the kind of person that likes having the actual boxed version of a game. It's just like, I don't know, I realize it's probably an old-timer thing or whatever, but I feel that a lot of people are actually like that too, particularly these days where there's like games coming out of games that are in digital stores and whatnot, and they're just like coming out, disappearing from the store all of a sudden. There's some games that this has happened, that people have purchased those games and they're gone. And I don't want that stuff to happen to me, like if all of a sudden Sony decides, oh, we're gonna remove the Tales series from our store, and there's like nothing you can do, because I think that's even legal, and you're like, ugh, which is why I kind of like, oh, I wish I had the box versions. But whatever, I completely digress. But yeah, those are the Tales Symphonia Chronicles series. I really enjoyed what little I've played of it. I am definitely going to go back and go thoroughly through Tales of Symphonia, and then through Tales of Symphonia Dawn of a New World, and probably after that I'll go Tales of Xillia, because that's kind of like the way that I've planned out how I'm going to go through the Tales series, to kind of actually experience the whole thing. Now, these being older games, they are somewhat upscaled and a little bit up-resed, I believe, but not terribly so. Like, you can totally tell that these are games that aren't even from the PlayStation 3 generation. These are just games from the PlayStation 2 generation. You can totally just tell that. I mean, even Dawn of a New World, I believe, was only on the Wii. I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, I believe that Dawn of a New World was only on the Wii. Again, the graphical fidelity is not going to be the best. The voice acting, it was decent. It wasn't terrible. They also give you the choice to switch to Japanese voice acting, which is a very, very welcome addition. As a matter of fact, it was one of my biggest gripes with Tales of Xillia was the fact that you could not, at least in the version that I had, maybe the physical versions would actually allow for that, but the version that I had, the digital version, would not allow you to switch to the Japanese voice acting. So I was like, why not? Come on, man, put up a Japanese voice pack. It can't be that hard. And again, I'm saying this, maybe it is somewhat hard, but I highly doubt it. Either way, these particular versions all come with the Japanese voice acting if you prefer that stuff the same way that I personally do. Not all of the sentences are voice acted though, because there's a lot of text in these games, as you guys are probably aware. But the key story element, the key story plot points and all that stuff, those are all voice acted. The voice acting that I saw was pretty decent, even though the on the Tales of Symphonia, the first one, the audio quality was maybe not the best. Like, I could tell there was probably sub 128K stuff, but that's because I'm a perfectionist and I work with audio and video, and I can usually just tell, oh, that's not enough bitrate. You need more bitrate on that audio, and it's like, these are really old games, so I guess that maybe they just can't do that. They also have some anime type cinematics in both the titles, and you can tell that those have been somewhat upscaled, because you will notice some compression artifacts and some video filters that they added in to kind of try and make it look better, and they don't look bad. These cinematic anime type cutscenes, they don't look bad at all. They actually look pretty decent, but you can tell that it's been like up-res and upscaled and all that other stuff to fit with I'm not even sure if I should say the current generation consoles, because currently the current generation should be the PS4, but this is for the PS3, so there's that. But yeah, also incomplete, how should I put this? Contrarily to the character of Dawn of New World, the character that you play in Tales of Symphonia is actually a character that is outgoing. He is a character that is very likable. He's like the character that you can totally relate to as being the hero of the story, kind of. Whereas in the Dawn of New World, he's like that very, very shy type dude that you know he's going to be the hero, but he's still very, very shy. And it's interesting because these two characters are going to interact throughout the Tales of Symphonia Dawn of a New World. And given the way that the story has progressed, and again, man, it just irks me not to be able to tell you what is going to happen, because I know it would spoil the story for so many people. But let's just say I can't wait to see the way that these two characters are going to interact. I think it's going to be really cool, and I just can't wait to get back into Tales of Symphonia and just play the hell out of that game. So I realized that this was very different from my usual first impressions videos, because again, I didn't want it to go into so much detail as I went with Tales of Xillia, because I would have to do that for 2 games, and it would be very, very similar, because the combat in the Tales is a very similar combat. Let me just tell you that the dungeon crawling is solid. I love the dungeon crawling in these titles, and you guys know me, I love dungeon crawling. The combat is solid. I've become a huge fan of the Tales combat since Tales of Xillia. It is, however, still repetitive, just like Tales of Xillia. It is one of the things that I know is going to turn off a lot of people to the Tales series, so bear that in mind. It's like a lot of times you're going to go into a combat scenario where it's going to be just like you're going to be smashing X and pulling off an art every now and then with your circle, and you're going to have to do this a whole lot as you're going through dungeons. Now, me personally, I don't have a problem with this, because I love the dungeon crawling. I love killing multiple mobs and leveling up and getting loot and all that stuff. But I realize that a lot of people want, a lot of variety, and they want all that, and they don't want all that repetitiveness in their games. So If you're someone who does not like a repetitive experience, then you probably already know that Tales of Symphonia is not for you. But apart from that, everything in these titles seemed very solid from the few moments that I've had with them up until this point. I can't wait to play more of them, and maybe I'll even make future videos as I go through the Tales of Symphonia Chronicles. I'm definitely not going to make full playthroughs because that would just take too long, and I want to actually play through the whole titles. And I've been looking at how long people take to go through just the first title, Tales of Symphonia, and I'm hearing reports of people like, oh, it took me about 50 hours, and I was like, holy crap, that's insane. That's an insane amount of hours. And then there was this other guy who said, well, skipping through all the dialogue and knowing exactly what I had to do, it only took me about 15 to 20 hours. And I was like, what? That's still insane. So yeah, there's a lot of combat, a lot of content in both of these games, and I would highly recommend both of them based on my experience with them so far. So if you like what you guys have been seeing on the background, the type of combat that it is, the graphical style, the art style of both of these titles, if you like what I've been saying about them, probably these are for you. If you don't like what I've been saying about it, then you should probably hold off, because this is pretty much what these Tales titles are. So keep that in mind. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. As per usual, leave me your feedback, all that kinds of good stuff in the comment section below. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.